Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another FNM monthly battle report. This is my 6th one overall, and this is the last one for the Ravnica Allegiance meta. It's going to cover weeks number 10 through 14 of the Ravnica Allegiance meta at my local game store for Friday Night Magic in Standard. And overall, did pretty well. I've got my full play set of Light Up the Stage promos, as well as getting one extra Light Up the Stage, but once I got the 5th Light Up the Stage, I was like, man, I wish this was a growth spiral. So just because, well, my mentality was the 5th copy, I was going to get the 5th copy and just hold on to it, because I feel like in the future it's going to see maybe perhaps modern play, just because like it's an insane card in those burn decks. Like 1 mana draw 2 is just really good. So I was thinking, maybe in the future, 5 years from now or whatever, just to see what happens, just to experiment what happens. But then I kind of regretted it, because, the growth spiral, even though I'm not really playing any kind of ramp deck at the moment, or I'm not really in Simic colors at the moment, it is a Sid McKinnon card, as well as just being so beautiful to look at with the FNM promo foiling on it. It just has this beautiful like blue-green like gradient. It's so good. Yeah, just every time I look at it, I just feel happy. I don't know why. It just looks so good. So yeah, I'm thinking like I'm gonna get one of those miniature like easel things, like the little wooden like stand holders for like the small miniature paintings, and just put like the growth spiral in a top loader and just like put it on my desktop or whatever. And some people, they'll have family photos. I'll have a growth spiral promo just to look at, because it just makes me happy. I don't know why. Just really great looking card. But and also the Kickstarter for Sid McKinnon, I did support his second round. Yeah, the second round. I think this is the second one, because I missed the first one. But I'm gonna get 2 playmats. So it was kind of expensive. It sent me back a little bit for my leisurely expenses. And I think I'm gonna get the Chalice of the Void, as well as I think it's the Vengeful Rebirth. The one that has like the red head, and she's like dismantling into like this deathly figure on a sword. I mean, it's really cool looking, very colorful. I love it. I love the colors on it. And the growth spiral was another choice, but now that I have the FNM promo, I think I'm fine just getting the Chalice of the Void as well as the Vengeful Rebirth as my like playmats for the Kickstarter. So anyways, that was a long tangent, but moving on, let's actually get into the battle report here. So week 10, I brought my mono white historic deck. Now this deck has changed over time, and I think going forward into War of the Spark, I'm gonna use, well, right now I dismantled this deck and I made it into a mono white Knights deck with the History of Benalia's, but I might experiment going back to the Traxos build, because History of Benalia is a saga. So the idea is obviously Traxos, slam Traxos down and try to untap with it. And you use different legendaries like Danitha, Teshar even, along with the Blackblade Reforged. It's just a mid-range, like, unique, gimmicky deck. It's not like tier or anything. It's just like a mono-white mid-range deck, but I just love Traxos. Traxos is just such a beast. 4 mana 7/7s, even though it has a big downside, it's a build-around downside. You have to really focus on the historics as well as legendaries or sagas to untap Traxos. Even though that is a downside, it kind of reminds me of that one broken card in Hearthstone of like, it's like a shaman card. It was like 4 mana 7/7 and had like overload 2 or 3 or something, which, if you don't know what in Hearthstone, overload is you lose that mana next turn. So you can't use, if you have overload 3, you're down 3 mana next turn. It's locked out. So but anyways, like, it's just 4 mana 7/7s are just ridiculous, right? But yeah, Traxos, he's just a pet card. I just really love Traxos, so I just wanted to play with this deck again, just because it functions really great on the kitchen table, but trying to make it work in the FNM environment, the competitive environment, is a little bit more trickier of a task. I did have a time where I went 3-1 with this deck, because I was using Urza's Ruinous Blast as well as my top end, just because it's kind of like a one-sided board wipe. If you go all legendaries, Urza's Ruinous Blast, if you don't know, is a 5 mana sorcery where it exiles all non-legendary permanents. So that's great, because it's like you're playing with all these legendaries, and then your opponent, like, I had 2 matchups where they were Drake decks and they didn't have any legendaries, so it was a one-sided board wipe. But yeah, that was I mean, right now in this meta, even before War of the Spark, there's a lot of legendaries that I'm seeing. So I took out the Urza's Ruinous Blast, and I kind of went with more of this, I actually went with 4 Baffling Ends, and I did that because I thought it was a meta call, just against, what I've been seeing in my meta, and turns out, like, in retrospect, it did work out in some situations. The main deck, game 1, 4 Baffling Ends, but I think in most situations you want to go with the Conclave Tribunals. It's just safer, and just keep the Baffling Ends from the sideboard, but I did make that call before going into this FNM. And yeah, I even used a Maverick Fane, which is a 3-mana 2/2, but it's another legendary. And I decided to alleviate some of the curve. Had another Teshar, as well as the Baird, Steward of Argive, and 4-mana legendary creatures. I decided to put the Baird in the sideboard and just only 2 Teshars in the main deck, just to lighten up the curve a little bit. But obviously the deck still needs the Shalai and the History of Benalias, because that's another way to untap Traxos. But yeah, this is my build. And by the way, I'm not going to be able to put because I'm covering 5 weeks of FNM as well as a standard showdown. I don't think I'll be able to cover all of my deck lists, so I'll just timestamp them all down in the description below. Usually I put my whole deck list down below, but I'll just timestamp my decks. So round 1, I went 2-1 against budget 4-color Gates, and I say budget because well, his name's Alex, but he's shown me the deck list, and he told me that he only spent like 20-25 bucks on it. And in this case, the Baffling Ends did work out really well against the Gatebreaker Rams, but still, I think in the long run, the Conclave Tribunals are just a safer bet going in game 1 if you're going to play a playset. And the Ixalan's Binding actually proved really clutch in game 2 and game 3 to lock out his Gate Colossus, so he wasn't able to continue to play those. Those were essentially just dead cards, and I got over the top of Gates Ablaze with the Traxos as well. So Traxos has a baseline 4-mana 7/7, and you equip it with the Black Blade Reforged, and it gets +1/+1 for each land. So as well as having the Dawn of Vanguards, it was just kind of countered his Gates Ablaze. So yeah, but he did get a game on me when he just went out of control with the Archway Angel and got a crap ton of life and just really elongated the game. To a point where he could draw into his threats, and oh yeah, he drew into his Expansion Explosion, and that's how he finished me off. So but yeah, the Gates deck is like a really great budget option if you have a friend who's interested in that kind of it's kind of a slower play style, I would say, but still it's really effective with the Gates Ablaze, and most of the components are relatively cheap. So I've been really impressed with this deck. But anyways, moving on. Going into round 2, I went 2-1 against Esper Control, and I actually got an insane Chaos Wand top deck. So Chaos Wand, I only play one in the sideboard, and I actually have it for Ada, who plays Grixis Control, and I just figured Chaos Wand from the side would be really great against that deck because she's playing a lot of removal. But in this case, I got a Mortify from Chaos Wand and killed his Lyra Dawnbringer. And it was just, I'll never forget that moment, because like, what are the chances of that? Because sometimes I could get a whiff, right, with even like a Kaya's Wrath off the top wouldn't have been good because it would have destroyed my board state. But the fact that I killed his Lyra Dawnbringer with a Mortify was unbelievable. It was just, like, that was just insane luck on my part. I couldn't believe it. And game 3, I just got lucky with the lands. He got semi-land screwed. I think he missed 1 land drop, and he ended up like turn 5, like a Chemist's Insight, while I was still applying pressure. He did remove my Johnny's Pride Mate, but also he didn't get the Search for Ascantus start. That's another key thing. If a deck can get the Search for Ascantus start filtering out your early game draws, that's always helpful as well. So yeah, it's kind of lucked out in this matchup. Esper Control obviously is a tier deck, and just the fact that I could steal this round against Esper Control was pretty awesome. I couldn't believe it with the Chaos one. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. I'll never forget the top deck Chaos one into Mortify on a freaking Lyra Dawnbringer. It was unbelievable. It gives me a heebie-jeebies just thinking about it right now. Like, I get a little tickle in my pickle. But yeah, moving on into round 3. Round 3 was Sam. He's part of the middle school crew, so he plays this mono white aggro deck. Now this is before the challenger decks, but it's relatively the same list. Just jam out a bunch of 1-drops. He doesn't have the History of Benalias as well. That's another key thing to note. so the History Benalia price drop hasn't happened yet because obviously the challenger decks were still, I think, what was that, week 12 or week 13? I don't know, I don't remember. But anyways, his main kill method is the Pride of Conquerors, and you know, he just jams out a bunch of 1-drops. Now I didn't write that he played with the Snubhorn Sentries. He did not play with the Snubhorn Sentries. I would have written that down, but he does play with the Sunhome Stalwart. The 2-mana first strike has Mentor, so that's another thing to note. But yeah, we traded game 1, game 2. Game 3 though, I had to mull down to 6, and he just got the dream start. He got the turn 1 Sky Marcher, turn 2 Bounty. Oh, Bounty, yeah, he also sideboards the Bounty Agent, and that's actually insane against my deck. He got my Traxos with it, so yeah, that's a good sideboard tech against me. I used to sideboard 4 way back, just because I thought it'd be like a hard counter against what was it, Niv Mizzet. But yeah, I think Bounty Agent is a little bit slow and clunky because it doesn't have haste, so you have to wait 1 turn. But yeah, if you can, like, Bounty Agent in my deck at least, with Teshar is potentially, you know, you can get a lot of value out of that, but that's only like a hypothetical. Like, very rarely would that ever happen. Also, Bounty Agent is just kind of slow because, like I said, it doesn't have the haste. You gotta wait a turn for it to tap. So, but yeah, it destroyed me, and yeah, he just got the board state, and then got me with the Pride of Conquerors. So, yeah, I mean, what can you do? It's mono white aggro. If they're gonna get the upper hand, and I was on the play. Yeah. Oh dang. So I mean, he still got the better of me right there. But yeah. So I mean, what can you do? It's a tier deck. But you know, moving on into round 4. Another lackluster result. 1 and 2 versus Ada, who's a judge, and she loves playing this Grixis control deck. And she also, I think she plays with Cryo Chronarians, but she didn't draw it. I don't think she needed it against my deck, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I'm not seeing Cryo Chronariums. She probably didn't sideboard those. I'm pretty sure she plays those, though. Yeah, I'm almost guaranteed that she has those in the sideboard. But yeah, I actually don't have it written down that she has the Cryo Chronariums. But looking at it, she just got me with the Expansion Explosion. She drew 4 with Expansion Explosion. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, Expansion Explosion is just a really good card in general. You know, you can jam it in a bunch of different decks. Now with the War of the Spark, with Raw, he's trying to, a lot of people are trying to experiment with the infinite combo, but just in general, just to have a way to copy perhaps a Chemist's Insight, or even another removal spell, or your opponent's removal spell, and then, you know, you can use the second half of Explosion to finish games, or just draw a bunch of cards. But in this build, she plays the full playset of Nicol Bolas, as well as the Rekindling Phoenix. She only plays 1 Rekindling Phoenix, excuse me. The Angrath, I believe, is a 2 of. So that's kind of how she finishes everything. Everything else is like counter spells, and like Thought Erasures and stuff like that. But yeah, so so she had game 2. She got the Search for Ascanta start, and then so if she gets the Search for Ascanta and flips it, I mean, she's filtering out her deck, and I mean, Search for Ascanta is just a really good card. The game that I did win, though, was with an Ixalan's Binding. She tapped out for Nicol Bolas, and I Ixalan Binding the Nicol Bolas, so all of her future draws of Nicol Bolas weren't useful, but she ended up actually discarding the other copy of Nicol Bolas that she drew for the Chemist's Insight, so that's kind of a workaround for her. But yeah, just a tough matchup. I've traded rounds with her before, but this time she just got the better of me. And yeah, I went 2 and 2 and didn't get the promo. But moving on into week number 11. Week number 11 was a mono black control deck, and this is kind of it's mainly creature based, but a lot of the creatures have built-in removal. For example, like Plaguecrafters, the Ravenous Chupacabras, even the Pilfering Imps. And, the finishers were like the Tetzamok, the Grave Waker, and Demon Lord Belzenok. And over time, I kind of realized, it's kind of greedy to play all those 6-drops, but at the same time, my deck is kind of slower. And in hindsight, probably only should play with the one Tetsamok, and as a matter of fact, in the last week I only played with the one 6-drop, which was Tetsamok. It was more of a mid-range deck though, and you'll see that later, but in this case, this is what my deck list was looking like. You know, the Cabal Strongholds were for the Josu Vests and the Isareths, and yeah, the Grave Wakers just have something to dump mana into, trying to get that infinite value. You know, every time you swing in with Isareth, you can just tap, or, you know, trying to get the kick Josu Vest or the Grave Waker, where you can pay 7 to, you know, bring back a creature from the graveyard. Usually you want to get the Ravenous Chupacabra, like with the Isareth, Playcrafter, or the Ravenous Chupacabra is always great with the Resurrects with Isareth. So, but otherwise it's just, you know, heavy with the removal, walk the plank. Only one Eldest Reborn, have the sideboard 3 Eldest Reborn, which honestly, like at 5 mana, probably 2 copies at most against even like the control decks, just because the chance of getting it countered is pretty high, or, you know, things like Thought Erasure for instance. But yeah, in this case my sideboard already had the main deck Pilfering Imps, and then, you know, from the sideboard, just with a lot of hand hate, go with the Duress, Drill Bits, and extra copies of Plague Mare, and then Golden Demise. Those are essentially copies 4 through 8 for Cry of Carnariums, already playing the play set in the main deck. So, but that's my mono black control list for week 11. Going into round 1 was against Big Gruul, and I was able to essentially just use a removal. It was a relatively easy matchup. He never got his Galtas out. He only plays with 2 Galtas, by the way, and one of them was a promo, which was super sweet, but he only has 1 Atali. So he did hit me with the Rhythm of the Wild into the Atali Haste, which is pretty awesome. But overall, like, the deck was more or less slow, and I was able to just, you know, walk the plank. His Gruul Spellbreaker, the Eldest Reborn proved to be essentially a 3-for-1, so I got a lot of value out of that. The Burning Tree Vandals were kind of interesting. I don't know how many of those he was playing, but I'm assuming, if you don't know, like, a Burning Tree Vandal is a 3-mana 2/1 with Riot, and every time it attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So maybe that was his way of drawing. But, you know, overall, I never really felt too endangered. I mean, it was pretty surprising with the rhythm into the Atali. I was not expecting that, but the last game though, yeah, I was able to hold off pretty well. Oh, the Tetsamok, yeah, the Tetsamok got him. Yeah, the Tetsamok got him. So I just got a lot of value out of Tetsamok there, and yeah, overall I think, like, out of the 3 6-drops, Tetsamok is the best one. Demon Lord, Belzenok, I've tried to, like, you know, 6 mana for a 6/6 flyer. You know, Doom Whisperer is obviously better at 5 mana, which is a shame because, you know, Demon Lord Belzenok is a legendary creature, and I think he's one of the demons for Liliana. But yeah, I have gotten a 3 draw off of Demon Lord before, but overall, like, he's typically just a draw 1, and I think, you know, you can get so much more value with the Tetsamok is what I'm trying to say. And, you know, Gravewaker is actually pretty good, but you know, the Cabal Strongholds, you do need that synergy to get all that mana to pump it in, pump up the Gravewaker. So, you know, with the Mono Black mid-range deck in the last week 14, I only went with the Tetsamok, but going forward, if I do continue on with the Mono Black control, I'll probably go down from 3 6-drops down to 2, just the Gravewaker as well as the Tetsamok, just because, you know, the Tetsamok, I can clear out the board, you know, get a 6-drop, 6/6 on the board, and the Gravewaker is just another thing I could pump mana into. And you'll see in the week 14 in my Mono Black mid-range deck, I also went with 2 Dreadshades as well, just to have more things that I could pump Cabal Stronghold into. But anyways, round 2 was amazing against Mono White Aggro, which was Sam again. And just because, you know, I had the perfect sideboard tech, you know, the Golden Demises, as well as 1 copy of the Plague Mare, which just, yeah, it got the value out of Adana Vanguard. I can finally deal with Adana Vanguard, and that's the reason why I don't play with the Ritual of Suits. Like, just because of Adana Vanguard, you want to get that Cry of Carnariums, -2/-2, just so you can get around the indestructible part. So, but I did bring this Mono Black control deck to the standard Showdown, and I wish I had the Ritual of Suits for a certain matchup, and you'll see that later on. But so that's kind of iffy. Like, you know, like what's the ratio of Ritual of Suit versus the -2 board sweepers do you play with? So it's kind of a deck building, you know, decision that you got to make against your meta. But in this case, you know, I just swept the floor clean with Sam, just because my deck is obviously geared really well against mono white, against the aggro decks in general. But going on into round 3 was Gruul Warriors, which is really cool with the unclaimed territory named named Warriors. So this one played the Growth Chamber Guardian, the Crawl Harpooner. It was a beatdown deck essentially, as well as the Chain Roller and the Spellbreaker. So unclaimed territory, you can add 1 mana of any color if you of that certain chosen type. So you just name Warrior. But she did play with, I think, 2 Rekindling Phoenixes just as top end, and the Collision Colossus as well as the Lightning Strikes. And she also had the Mythic Edition of Domri Chaosbringer. Just wanted to note that, just because I was actually kind of fascinated when I first saw that. I was like, oh snap, you got the Mythic Domri Chaosbringer. But anyways, this was another game where I got away with the Tetzimoc Proof Clutch. Game 2 though, oh, she sideboarded in the Siege Gang Commanders, and that actually proved like a bad choice against my deck, because I did not show the Cry of Carnariums, but I would assume that she would have known that I would have the Cry of Carnariums going into game 2, and I just swept the board of the Siege Gang Commanders, so that was a bad call on her part. Demon Lord finished off the game in that one, but yeah, just a comfortable win. But as you'll see later, in the standard showdown, she actually got the better of me with the same Gruul Warriors deck. It might have been a little bit tweaked, but yeah, in this FNM week, like, I got the better of her. But yeah, you'll see in the standard showdown that she beat me 2-1, and essentially that was my second loss, and I was like, I'm out of contention for standard showdown. But anyways, going into round 4 was this Bant Vannifar deck. Now, this is another deck that I was really hyped to see, because I've been seeing it on the field. I've been seeing him pilot the deck, but to finally go against it, it's amazing, because it only plays 23 lands, 37 creatures, okay? There's only 1 non-creature spell in all of the 75 cards. It's only in the sideboard. It's only 1 copy of Unbreakable Formation. Everything else is a creature, and that was so cool. And game 1, I'll never forget this, okay? Game 1, it was kind of a stalled out board. I got him with the double Cry of Carnariums. I killed all of his board, and I still lost the game. Can you believe that? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I had double Cry of the Carnarium. I cleared his board, and I still lost the game. It was the Lyra Dawnbringer that got him back into the game. I just kind of ran out of removal. I ran out of gas. And yeah, game 2, he just went off a chain. He went into Branchwalker, Wild Growth. I drill bitted him. Yeah, I got his Bugler. I got his Jade Light. Shalai I left in his hand because I had to walk the plank, which I did hit him with later on. He had 2 Knight of Autumns. Tetzimoc. Deputy Detention. Oh, off the top deck from the Branchwalker, Conclave. Then he got his Vannifar, and then he started trading. Yeah, he traded up his Wild Growth Walker. Yeah, and he just got value out of that. And he got me on the beats after that. Yeah. So, yeah, I couldn't believe the Cry of Carnariums I lost in game 1. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. It was absolutely insane. Because I felt so confident. I was like, holy crap, like, double Cry of Carnarium, because I was holding the first one, and I drew into my second one, and I was like, this is it, this is the game. But I still lost the matchups, that game in particular. And also, this deck gave me trouble when I was facing it with my mono red burn deck, which you'll see, which was my week 12 deck. But as you'll see here's my mono red deck. And now this deck is, like I said, it went down to 16 mountains, which is a bad call, I think, but I was trying to emulate that 13 land, MTG Arena deck where a lot of people try to abuse the behind the scenes land, kind of a gimmick where you play with 13 mountains and you can still get enough lands because of the systems in MTG Arena. But yeah, I didn't have the full playset of the Skewer the Critics, so I got my full playset of Light Up the Stages, and that's why I really wanted to play with the Mono Red Burn, because last week, you know, with the Mono Black Control, I went 3-1, got my 4th copy of Light Up the Stage. I just wanted to get in, like, you know, have a new mix-up and try and play at Mono Red Burn, but honestly, I think probably the biggest mistakes in this deck were the too many 2-drops. I played with 10 2-drops with the Rixmati Reveler, and the Electrostatic Fields. And to be honest, I think perhaps the Viashinos, I think you will always want to have, but maybe I take out the Electrostatic Fields, or maybe go down to 2 copies of Electrostatic Fields, or maybe only 1 copy. But the Rixmati Revelers were actually pretty good, because you could filter out the second Flame of Keld if, you know, you have 2 copies in hand, or just to like the Flame of Keld second chapter draw 2, and you could Rixmati Reveler and then discard a land and just kind of filter out your deck a little bit more. So another thing is, you know, this was before the Challenger decks as well, I believe, so the Wizard Lightning were still $1. And so I just substituted in with like a Repeating Barrage. But honestly, like, I should probably go down. Oh, the Spear actually lost me a game as well. I only played 1 copy. Another thing, I was actually really impressed from the sideboard, the Carnival and Carnage, just because Carnival is like 1 mana deal 1, and you get that Spectacle, and then you can trigger off another 1-drop with the Spectacle, like Light Up the Stage or the Skewer the Critics. But ultimately, I think I need to go back up to 18 Mountains, as well as, you know, lower my 2-drops, and, you know, obviously get the full playset of Wizard Lightning as well as the Skewer the Critics. And this is much more of a budget build compared to the Risk Factor builds, or, you know, the regular mono red red deck wins with the Chain Whirlers, as well as, you know, I kind of wanted to, you know, steer away from the red deck win strategy just because it's like kind of played out, and I don't know, I like the super quick, speedy, you know, AT land, a lot of 1-drops, and just try and burn face while you have Flame of Keld. That's kind of the, instead of Experiment and Frenzy, just go lower on the land count and then go with the Flame of Keld. That's, I don't know, I just like that hasty kind of build, but obviously this is a little bit different than the mono red Goblin, Flame of Keld Goblin build that I was trying to go with, just because on the kitchen table, like, probably the biggest thing about that deck is, you know, things like Goblin Chain Whirlers, or anything that, you know, like the -2/-2 board sweepers, for instance. So yeah, that was the main thing I was worried about going into FNM. So that's why I wanted to go with more of a hasty, you know, Flame of Keld, refill your hand, or empty out your hand, Flame of Keld, and just burn face. Like, you know, with the Electrostatic Field on board, you know, Skewer the Critic, and just get those triggers off, 1 mana spells off. So, but anyways, moving on into, oh man, so this Naya Midrange deck, right? This Naya Midrange deck had 3 Knight of Autumns in game 1. And he ended with 12 HP. So there you go. Yeah, his Knight of Autumns just carried him in that game. Game 2, he got me. I mean, I could get there. I feel like if I had the full playset of Wizard Lightning as well as the full playset of Screw the Critics, maybe I could have gotten there. He only got 1 Knight of Autumn in game 2 though. So, and he ended up with 4 HP, and I top deck a field with a shock, so I only did 3 damage. So, oh, and his Growth Chamber Guardians, he got so much value out of that, because he Growth Chamber Guardian triggered into another Growth Chamber Guardian. So yeah, he got the value out of that, and I was just chump blocking with like Viashino and yeah, I was just chump blocking at that point, trying to survive, trying to get the top deck, but I got the top deck field. So now for round 2 was a Rakdos control deck, which was pretty sweet, to be honest. I love these kind of like off the radar builds, and this guy, he actually played a like Ionized Counterburn deck back in Guilds of Ravnica. He doesn't really show up too often at my FNMs, but yeah, I mean, this was pretty sweet. This little gimmicky captive audience top end build. I think the Thematic Compass was a little bit too slow, just because like game 1 I had 19 HP, and game 2 I had 20 HP, so I was always the aggressor, and even the life gain from like Moment of Craving was so like insignificant that I was easily able to just, you know, even after a board sweeper like Ritual of Suit, I was just able to refill my hand with Flame of Keld and just go off. So And the compass was actually kind of slow and dirtily, I think. Just a little bit too clunky. I really don't know, like, what was his best option. Maybe, I mean, just because he has no counter spells, you know, like the Grixis builds. So, I don't know, I just was able to easily win these 2 games to get under him, so not really too much to worry about with the Rakdos control deck. But the Vannifar deck, again, with the Knight of Autumn, only one time Knight of Autumn. Only one time Knight of Autumn. It was the Wild Growth Walkers in game 2 that I had to burn 2 3 damage burn spells on. Just because, you know, he Wild Growth Walkered the next turn. And obviously you got to remove those before they get out of control and start getting a crap ton of life. So, yeah, overall, just that was a really bad matchup again with the Knight of Autumn. So this was the second, along with the Naya Midrange, the second Knight of Autumn deck, which, you know, Knight of Autumn is not really too prevalent in my meta, my local game store's meta, but in this case, this week, it just totally wrecked me. So that's what forced me to go 2-2. Oh, no, I lost round 4. Round 4 was against Gruul Midrange, and this deck just got the beats on me as well. The Goblin Chain Whirler was absolutely devastating. So, yeah, even after sideboards, when I put in the Raptor Hatchling, which did help, it slowed the game down, but overall, like, just too much value with the Growth Chamber Guardian. The Rekindling Phoenix got him a win. Yeah, just my one toughness creatures just weren't up to par against Goblin Chain Whirler. But to be honest, like, I did get a win off of, you know, just going over the top and just burning him out. So, you know, like I said, I think I should try the build again. Maybe adjust my amount of 2 drops. Maybe only 2 electrostatic fields. I really like the Rixmati Revelers, especially if I do splash like 2 Rakdos Guild Gates, just as like a budget, you know, splash, along with the Carnival and Carnage, and main deck those perhaps. So maybe I'll try another build of like a super quick mono red splash black for the Carnage, as well as the Rixmati Reveler to try and get a fresh hand. And go down from, you know, 4 electrostatic fields to perhaps only 2 or even 1, and perhaps even take out the 10th Street Dodgers for the Carnival Carnage. So maybe I should experiment with that kind of build, because it seems like a lot of these games that I'm losing, the opponent has like less than 5 HP. So, you know, and obviously the exceptions of the Knight of Autumns, there's not too many life gains out there. Well, I mean, like Wild Growth Walkers, but there's so much 3 damage burn, especially if I get the full playset of Wizard's Lightning and my last copy of Screw the Critics. I wonder if this deck can get there, go back up to 18 lands. So yeah, this week wasn't that good with the mono red burn, but that's not to say I didn't learn a lot about, you know, playing mono red, this super quick burn deck. So going forward, I'm really excited to experiment with this. But yeah, overall, like, it was fun, but, you know, going 1-3 wasn't really what I was thinking. But then again, I did take the risk of going down to 16 mountains, and there were some times where I did miss my second mountain. So, but yeah, learned a lot. Going on into rounds. Oh no, not round 12. This is the Standard Showdown week. So this is my store's first ever Standard Showdown, and it's really weird because they were rewarding Dominaria Standard Showdown packs, which is really strange, right? Because that would mean that they were eligible to do Standard Showdowns. They got the packs, but they never did it, even back in this Dominaria days. So I just thought that was strange. But then again, like, the game store is super busy, like, all the time. Like, they're always running events for, like, tabletop. Not even just like Warhammer, they're doing like Dungeons and Dragons. They're doing, you know, not only Magic the Gathering for like the pre-releases. So I can understand why maybe perhaps the manager or whatever just wasn't really sure on what set date or whatever. I really don't know. It was kind of strange with the Dominaria packs, but this is what I brought, and this. So my thought was, mono white is going to be everywhere. Now this, okay, so this is when week 12 was when the challenger decks came out, because I brought this specifically to combat the mono white challenger decks that I thought would be rampant at Standard Showdown, and lo and behold, no one brought mono white. So yeah, anyways, this is my mono black Standard Showdown mono black controlled list, and it's more or less kind of the same, except I went with the 3-3 split of Cry of Carnariums and the Golden Demises in the main deck. Took out the Pilfering Imps, put them in the sideboard. So more or less the same thing, a little bit different, but even had the 2 Price of Fames, just because, you know, just extra removal as well as the Surveil is really nice. But yeah, as you'll see here, round 1 was against a Bant Reclamation deck. This deck was super refined, had the Hydroid Krasis. He got me with the Frilled Mystics out of nowhere. The Teferi got him a game. The Biogenic Ooze was his win condition on top of the Wilderness Reclamation. And also, yeah, game 2 settled the wreckage. So, yeah, it was just really well refined. As a matter of fact, he actually splits against Esper Control 3-0. They split the Standard Showdown packs, and the store credit, I believe, was also the payout. So he was actually a winner. So it sucked to get him in the round 1, but you know, sometimes you get tough pairings, and yeah, obviously my deck isn't really, even with the Pilfering Imps and the Duress and the Drill Bits, like I had this one insane where is it? I had this one insane yeah, so I got the Duress, I had the Imp, Duress, and Drill Bit in my opening hand. And when I Duressed, like, everything was gas. It was a Chemist's Insight, a Spell Pierce, a Hydroid. I took the Hydroid. Then I Imped. I got his Settle. And yeah, like, the Chemist's Insight was still value if I were to get that. Like, I left up the Spell Pierce. He was tapped out early in the game. So I used turn 2 Duress. So it was turn 1 Imp, turn 2 Duress into the Drill Bit. I got the Settle as well as the Hydroid. But still, like, turn 3, he Growth Spiraled. You know, he used his Chemist's Insight. I mean, he just drew into more gas. You know, even with that insane start. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's just a really well-refined list. And, yeah, I got locked out in round 1. He got me with the surprise Frilled Mystic, which, you know, I was kind of expecting that counter. He got the 3-3 Hydroid in game 1. And then Teferi got out of control. I got absorbed twice. So, you know, just a tough matchup in general. Obviously, with mono black control, you're not playing with any counter spells. So I feel like against this kind of Bant Reclamation deck, you either got to really go under him, like super quick, like 1-drops, 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 or you go with the counter spells. Because even in the case of the Imp, Duress, Drill Bit, I got his Settle and his Hydroid. Like, he just drew into more gas with the Chemist's Insight. So, just a tough matchup, though. Round 2, though, was the Girl Warriors matchup. And in this case, she got the better of me. Yeah, she just got the beats in game 1. Game 2, I got her with the Eldest Reborn Value Town. I ended up getting Adamri. And, yeah, just kind of... Oh, and I got my Liliana on board on top of that. So, yeah, and then game 3, though... oh, man, game 3. So, I left my Pilfering Imps in, and the Crawl Harpooner got turn 2 Crawl Harpooner on my Imp. Should have thought of that. I just completely forgot about that. Yeah, you never want to start off the game like that. And, yeah, also, she plays with treasure maps, too. So that's another thing that I should note. Yeah, because she had the treasure maps early in the game. So yeah, she just got the better of me this time. So unfortunately, it knocked me out of really any kind of contention. Round 3, I got the bye, and this is my meta at Standard Showdown. So this is the first ever Standard Showdown at my local game store. And yeah, the Bant Reclamation. There's 2 Gruul variants. There's Big Gruul. Oh, so Andrew. Yeah, Andrew was back playing. His like Big Gruul deck, as well as yeah, Abby was playing the Gruul Warriors, and then Esper Control, yeah, so the Esper Control, which wasn't the same one as the previous week, previous 2 weeks ago. this was Chris who was playing Esper Control, and yeah, there's 2 gate variants. There's one with a Hydroid Grixis, which so week 14 I played against the Grixis version, I think, but I didn't see it. So, but I did see it in the standard showdown. Just wanted to mention that. So I think I would consider that more of a less budget version, a more expensive version, maybe perhaps more refined. I don't know how common Hydroid Grixis is in the gate decks, but there's also a mono red deck that splashed the green for the enchantment hate, or the artifact enchantment hate from the sideboard. But it was pretty much a mono red deck for the most part. It only played the lands, the green lands, the gold lands, I mean. And there's a Boros Midrange deck, which is pretty sweet, with Aurelia and Resplendent Angels. It was kind of like a Boros Angels deck. But yeah, that was my meta. And going into round 4 was the budget gates deck. Now, we did go to time. We did go to turn 0. But we decided to play it out, and he got the better of me. I ran out of options, removing the gate Colossus and everything. It's not like I had Ixalan's Binding to lock him out or anything, so he just got the extra value over the course of the game. And with Archway Angel, since my deck is a lot more slow and controlling, the Archway Angel just extends the game out. So yeah, I ended up, even though we went to turn 0, and it was technically a tie, it was 1-1-1. We traded games 1 and 2, but yeah, we decided to play it out, and we stayed for like an extra 15-20 minutes, and yeah, I ended up losing. So officially, it was, what did I go, 1-2-1 officially according to the DCI, but overall, like the true record, because I did lose the last game because we played it out, I would consider this, mono black control to be 0-3. So, it was a deck that I was anticipating a lot of mono white, or like Azorius white, or whatever it is, but unfortunately, the stars didn't align, and my mono black control list got absolutely correct. So got to do some adjustments. I didn't go to the Easter Standard Showdown. I probably could have tried to. I would have been late though. That's the thing. I was guaranteed to be late, so I just decided, hey, I'm just gonna hang out and chill. But yeah, and then last week was pre-release weekend, so there was no Sunday Standard Showdown. And yeah, going into this week, I'm going to go to FNM for War of the Spark, first week of War of the Spark, and then Standard Showdown on Sunday. So I got to think of like maybe perhaps mono black mid-range again, which you'll see in week 14. But yeah, anyways, I got absolutely crushed. That's the main thing. Alright, so week 13 for Ravnica Allegiance, I went with my mono white Knights deck. So previously this was my mono white historic Traxos deck, but because of the challenger decks, History of Benalia has essentially dipped below $5. I got the play set for like what, $15 off of eBay, and yeah, it was just, that's the key piece that I was missing for a while now, because I wanted to build mono white Knights just because I like the tribal theme, and also it's just, I don't know, it's super cool, right? It's like mono white Knights. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's very flavorful. So but this one was a mid-range deck that capped off at Valiant Knight. So Valiant Knight gives all of your other knights +1/+1, and this, along with Benelish Marshal, you can actually go over the top and just really grow your board, along with History of Benalia. So this was what my deck was looking like, and I also included History of Benalia in the creatures, just because that's essentially what it is, even though it is an enchantment, but it essentially pumps out creatures, so I put it in the creature pile over here. Another thing to note is I went down to 1 Baffling End, and I went, did the 4 Conclave Tribunals, and I also did 1 Ixalan's Binding, just to have kind of like an extra copy of Conclave Tribunal, have that 1 copy in game 1, and then bring in the Ixalan's Bindings in game 2 and 3 if I need to lock out someone. But yeah, this one, and also 1 copy of Quende. I had 1 copy of Blackblade Reforged, but honestly, like, maybe I just go away from the legendaries. I don't know. It's kind of a tough call, but yeah, I really don't know if I should stick with the legendary sub theme or try and shy away from it. Then again, there's not too many like good knights. Like there's the 2 mana 3/1 knight, which I could try and play with, but at the same time, like there's really not too many 2-drop knights. So maybe, you know, keeping the Danitha Capuchin as well as the Quende. I actually might take away the Quende, just cap off at 4 for the Valiant Knights, and you know, perhaps trying out the maybe the 2 mana 3/1 2 mana 3/1 knight. I think the Knight of Benelia or something like that, or just go with the second copy of Cavalry Drill Master. That's also a knight. So that way I can turn 1 Dauntless Bodyguard, turn 2 Cavalry Drill Master, push in that damage, and then follow it up with something like a History of Benelia or a Benelish Marshal. So yeah, there's still a lot of tinkering around to do with this deck, but it did go 3-1. Also in the sideboard, I put in the Bring the Trials, which was a 3 mana, exile a creature with power 4 or greater. So yeah, that's just another thing that I sideboarded in. And round 1 was a Big Gruul. Now, Big Gruul wasn't too much of a problem, because I had the Conclave Tribunals, as well as the Ixalan Binding, locking out his Registrar Alpha. Now, this deck, when it won off of the Charging a Monster Star into the Registrar Alpha, So it can easily, burst damage out of nowhere. But overall, like my removal was more or less solid, and I could just wait for History of Benelia to proc off and swing in. So not too much to worry about in this deck. Again, it was slow. I didn't see the Galta played against me either in any of the games. So yeah, I don't know if it's a problem with the deck, or I'm sure it's fine. It's just I haven't seen it yet played against me. And every time that I played against Big Gruul, but. Anyways, round 2, Azorius Aggro. So this guy, he's the more spikier player. He splashes in the blue for the Deputy of Detentions in the main deck, and he has more on the side as well as the negates. So this one was super refined. Yeah, he just got the better of me in the game with the Venerated Loxodons. And also, I think he... it was a misplay on my part, I think, to sideboard in the Demystifies. Which was, 1 mana removal for enchantments. Just because I think I should focus on not removing the enchantments and just, do Baffling Inns, Conclave Tribunal. Perhaps even, that's the thing, is I didn't go with the copies 2, 3, and 4 of Ixalan's Binding. I went with the Baffling Inns, Conclave Tribunal removal suites, as well as the Demystifies after sideboard. So that was probably a misplay on my part. I probably should have just done the Ixalan's Binding and perhaps locked out, a History of Benelia or even a Conclave Tribunal, for instance. Like I could have locked him out from that. So yeah, that was probably a misplay on my part to do the Demystify. Demystify is probably way better against Wilderness Reclamation, obviously, and perhaps Search for Escanta, but yeah, it was probably a misplay on my part, so I lost this round. But going into Mono Red Frenzy, Danitha never actually stuck around. I would think that Danitha was kind of the... Oh, game 1. So game 1, he had the Experimental Frenzy, and he just kept on... He went off. I didn't even touch him in game 1. Yeah, it was 20-5, and he got me off the top deck Frenzies. Yeah, Danitha just never stuck around on the board. It just always got shocked or... lightning striked. Whereas, game 2, I went on the play, we both kept... Oh, I went into turn 2 Blackblade, turn 3 History. So he had to shock. Then he Gitude. I went Knight of Grace, which also got shocked. Frenzy. Oh, so Demystifies actually... Yeah, so I put in the 2 Demystifies against the Experimental Frenzy. When he curved out for Frenzy, I was able to destroy it. Baffling Inns were really clutch. So yeah, that's how I got game 2, was locking him out of Frenzy, so he didn't have the gas. Game 3 was, again, Frenzy was Demystified. And I just got the better of the board state. I went bigger on this time with the Benelish. And then, yeah, the History, so I was able to overwhelm the board state there. The Chain Whirlers weren't as effective. I also took out the Dawn of Vanguard, so I took out the Dawn of Vanguards because of the Chain Whirler matchup, and I also took out the Bodyguards as well. And I put in Ixalan's Bindings, the Seal Aways, the Baffling In, so I went more of a control build. Even put in the one Chaos Wand, but I never drew the Chaos Wand. But I managed to win game 3, so yeah, the Demystifies were really clutch, just to prevent him from going off on the gas. Just going off on Experimental Frenzy. So round 4 was again this, Grixis control. That's kind of you kind of see where my my local FNM meta is kind of, more or less the same faces. I'm facing Grixis control, mono white, a little bit of mono red, some mono, not mono Gruul, but some Gruul. So let's see here. Game 1, 3-7. I was on the play. So this actually went to turn 17, T17. Holy crap! So turn 15, she explosioned for draw 6. Oh yeah, the Angrath got me. -3 on Adano. Yeah, and this one actually, let's see here. I excellent binding Bolus. Not game 1. Not game 1. This is game 3. Yeah. Oh yeah, she curved out Excellence Binding. So I was really lucky to do that again. Because that way, not getting countered. Thought Erasure. Valiant. Oh yeah, Valiant Knight actually finished off the game with the double strike. Valiant Knight can close out the games, especially with the Banish Marshal, and then pump it up with 5 mana to get double strikes. So, overall going 3-1, especially beating this Grixis control deck. Like I'm actually pretty happy with the deck. Of course, there could be a little bit of tweaks here and there. Quende, I don't ever remember being useful, especially me only playing 1 Blackblade Reforged. So, obviously Blackblade Reforged with only 1 copy. My mentality was just as a finisher. Even turn 7, like I could potentially use it later in the game, or alternatively equip it earlier with Daneth the Capuchin and get the Vigilance First Strike lifelink and kind of regain life against the burn decks. Even though Daneth, it doesn't really stick around against burn decks. That's kind of what I've realized in the mono red matchup. Or the red deck wins matchup. So overall, I am impressed with the deck, just with Valiant Knights being able to close the game along with History of Benalia and Banish Marshal. And yeah, can't wait to. Well, there's no more Knights though, so maybe I just include perhaps the Wanderer. Or maybe I perhaps try and go back to the Traxos historic mono white build. But overall, I'm really happy with mono white Knights, just as kind of a mid-range deck with the Conclave Tribunals, have a little bit of removal, mainly creature based though, and then just go over the top with the 3rd chapter of History of Benalia and just swing in, or finish off with Valiant Knight double strike. So yeah, really impressed with the deck. Went 3-1. I don't think it's a 4-0 deck. I have never gone 4-0 by the way, so. Still hoping one day with one of my budget builds I can go 4-0, but multiple 3-1s. But yeah, maybe I can try and tinker around with, because it felt really powerful. It felt really good having all these anthem effects is what I'm trying to say, and perhaps maybe if maybe with the 2-drop 2 mana, even though it's not a knight, it's still a 2 mana 2/3 flyer, and it's a legendary. So. Oh, and there's also the new Prism Realm, I think. So maybe I can go more of like a lockdown. I mean, that's kind of what I did against the mono white deck. I went more of the Seal Away, Baffling End, Conclave Tribunal, Demystify, kind of more of the controlling build to kind of counter like the Chained Whirlers and all the burn and everything. And yeah, just have the answers to Ixalan's, not Ixalan's Binding, Experimental Frenzy, just to lock out that kind of gas. But against the Grixis control, I was lucky to Ixalan's Binding Nicol Bolas after she's curved out. So, that can't always happen. And honestly, I think the matchup really relies on whether she has the turn to Search for Escanta, because if she can do that consistently, I'm pretty sure it's 4 copies, maybe? I don't know. I remember like always bouncing off. I'm always trying to get intel of like people's decks, so I don't know if she runs the full playset of Search for Escanta, but And also the Cry of Carnarians I think is only a 3 of from the sideboard, I think. So, but yeah, and then she didn't draw that in the last game, I don't believe. Yeah. And for the last week, 14, for the final week of Ravnica Allegiance, went with Mono Black Midrange. Now this one has the Diagraph Ghouls as well as the Knight of Malice, as well as the main deck 4 copies of Duress. So this is my build. As you can see, a little bit more. Well, I mean, my previous Mono Black controlled decks were also kind of creature based because you're playing with the Ravenous Chupacabras. This case, I went down from a full play set of the Plaguecrafters, just because Plaguecrafters aren't really that effective against the mono white, and I went with the Knight of Malice and the Diagraph Ghoul. Just to have that early game pressure, and also to get some board presence. Also went with the Dread Shades as well as 2 Issereth and 2 Josu Vest, just have more things to pump Cabal Strongholds. Now in this case I didn't go with I went only with 1 6-drop, which was the 1 Tetsamok. Perhaps if I were to go the more mono black control, I'll try the Tetsamok as well as the 2 Issereth, 2 Josu Vest, and the 1 Grave Waker, just so I can have things to pump more things, more Cabal Stronghold mana into, Also, I went with a splash of green, a very light splash for the Find Finalities, which I was totally cool just having the Find part. But over the course of the FNM, I was able to use Finality, and there was actually a point against Selesnya tokens, which you'll see here, that I actually lost the game. I had the Finality in hand. I was on 6 mana, but that 6th mana was a Golgari Guildgate, and entered the battlefield tapped, so giving him that 1 extra turn, he was able to win. And the next turn, I drew a Swamp, and I was like, oh, but with that being said, I mean, it's like, that's just, I've played with Golgari, I played with Guildgates before, and, sure, sometimes, like, you'll play a turn late, but in that case, that literally lost me the game, so, and also from the sideboard, I didn't go with the Pilfering Imps this time. I went with the Kite Sail Freebooters, just because, the Pilfering Imps are fine. I think a little slow, but yeah, the Kite Sail Freebooters I think are the better one, just because it's you get to enter the battlefield effect versus you had to tap, you had to wait a turn, and then tap 2, and then tap Pilfering Imp, sacrifice it. I think the Kite Sail Freebooter, is probably a little bit better. And yeah, 1 Moment of Craving just in case, I'm going against Adano Vanguard matchups. I mean, I already have a lot of anti-Adano Vanguard, but I didn't main deck the Cry of Carnarians. I went with more of a mid-range build over here. So, now this one was against Tanya. So, I assume she was, so she played in the standard Showdown, right? And I saw her with the Hydroid Krasis. So I'm assuming that this is more of a find build. She also has the Banefires as well. But I didn't see the Hydroid Krasis in all 3 games. So I'm not sure if she took them out or I just didn't see them. But it was funny because she was actually pissed to lose to me against Mono Black. Like, she was actually really, really pissed. Like, when you're signing and everything, like, the little DCI slip, like I actually just was like, signed it really quickly, and I went up and I said good game, and she was like, no it wasn't. She was like really salty about it because she didn't draw any of her board wipes of the Gates Ablaze or the Deafening Clarion. She also has the Deafening Clarions as well, but she didn't draw into them in game 3, so she was kind of pissed about that. But yeah, I mean, I just immediately just like went up and turned the slip in. But that's not to say, like, she actually went 3-1, okay? So I'm not trying to portray her in a bad light, but she went 3-1, and someone's son had the mono white challenger deck. He's like 8 years old, and she got the 4 packs for going 3-1. She beat him in the last round, the 8-year-old kid, and gave him an extra pack. So, like, she was just really salty in round 1. She's a good person, but she was just really salty. So, just because she had a bad draw, like, against my deck. But yeah, I got really, really lucky that in game 3 she didn't get any of her board wipes. So, yeah, I'm just really fortunate. Sometimes, magic goes your way with luck. Sometimes it doesn't. But round 2, Selesnya tokens. Now, Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. So we were going in round one, and I saw his name is Fisher, right? And he's like a waiter, and he doesn't typically go in FNMs, but sometimes he does, just because he works a lot on Fridays, because he is a waiter. But it was funny because he showed up late, and I was like, dude, you should totally sign up, man. Like they'll totally let you sign up, because if you miss the first round, you can come back and sign up for FNM and then continue the rounds. I'm not sure if you get the buy in the first round. I'm not sure how that works, but like my game store, they'll totally let you sign up after missing the first round. But anyways, he signs up and I face him round 2 and I lose to him. And game 1, I got a sick finality. It literally cleared his board. His Shauna's Sisei's Legacy got shrunk. Like, it was just totally manageable. Yeah, that was a blowout game 1 with the finality. But in game 3, so game 2 he got the win. He was on the play. He just curved out really well. Game 3, like I said, I got the Golgari Guildgate. That was my 6th mana. I had the finality in hand. It would have cleared his board. Well, it wouldn't have cleared his board because he had a Tristani and another shot. This was another situation where Shauna was outrageously big with like a March of Multitudes or whatever. And I could have cleared his board except for those 2 cards, except my Golgari Guildgate came in to play tapped, and it was really unfortunate, but that's just the price of playing budgets sometimes. That literally lost me the game, because if that was like an Overgrowth Tomb or whatever, yeah, I could have tapped it and then used the finality and really, yeah. A little bit salty, but like I said, and like sometimes Magic goes your way, sometimes it doesn't, and round 1, she didn't draw any of her board wipes, none of her Gates Ablaze, but in round 2 against Fisher, his Selesnya tokens got the better of me, so yeah, that was kind of unfortunate, but that's the price of paying budget builds sometimes with the guild gates. So yeah, in round 3 was the young 8-year-old kid who's the son of oh man, I forgot his name. What is his name? Anyways, he's a young kid and he's just starting to play Magic, and his dad got him the mono white Challenger deck, the United Assault deck, and it was unfortunate because he got the round 2 bye. I lost round 2, so I'm 1-1, and he's technically 1-1. But yeah, I'm playing his mono black mid-range control deck, and from the sideboard I have the Cry of the Carnariums, and it just absolutely wrecked this deck. I had relatively no problem whatsoever, and yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. But and then next round that he played was against the Gates deck. Yeah, just unfortunate, but. So I don't think he won. Yeah, he didn't win a game, I don't think. But yeah, I think everyone's kind of like well tuned to face mono white. Everyone has the sideboard tech. But moving on into round 4 was this Gruul mid-range deck. This one was a little bit weird. So the guy, he actually commutes like an hour to go to my game store, which is crazy because his county, the game store at his county doesn't really fire up FNMs. So yeah, he has to travel an hour just to. But anyways, this was the midnight pre-release, so that's the reason why he traveled, was to do the FNM and then do the midnight pre-release. And he was like saying he was drinking energy drinks the whole time because he had worked the whole day, and then he was doing the midnight pre-release. Then he had to drive back. So anyways, I thought it was interesting playing with the Stony Strengths. He got me with it. He got a Frenzied Airings. I tried to attack in, and then because he attacked with the Frenzied Airings, and he used Stony Strength, untapped it, and got a favorable trade. So, but honestly, I think, hey, you know what? Like, it's the deck builder's choice, but I think maybe Shocks are a little bit better. But then again, like, he probably has more reps in the deck. But he did top in with the 2 Hellkites, which I was always worried about, but I always had answers for. So. Yeah, it wasn't too much of a problem, but yeah, it was obviously like a swing-in deck. I don't know what, like, if you played with the 4 Sunder Shamans and then 2 Frenzied Airings, that's what I would assume is his ratio. I think the Sunder Shamans are a little bit better, but and his removal suite was the Thrash, and he was actually playing Savage Smash, I believe. So I'm not sure if it was like a budget build. Perhaps it was, but. Yeah, I don't know how much the Hellkites are going for. Maybe it was a budget build. I don't really know, because a lot of the Gruul cards aren't too expensive. But yeah, I had relative ease going against his decks just with the Ravenous Chupacabras, Walk the Planks, having a strong removal suite. Josu Vess was clogged up the board. So yeah, I wasn't too worried about anything. He did burst me down in game 1. Yeah, just the rhythm of the Wilds, just getting the extra counters on things, swinging in. Yeah, his board state just kind of grew out of control. But the other 2 games, I just handled them more or less with ease. I never really felt like I was on the losing end of anything. I always felt like I had the answers for it, for whatever his threats were, including the Hellkites. So yeah, got the promo, got this growth spiral. So that was the last FNM for Ravnica Allegiance. So thanks for sticking around, guys, if you stayed to the end. And yeah, overall, cannot wait for the next meta. I mean, it's going to be a fresh meta. A lot of new Planeswalkers. Hopefully it mixes up things. I'm sure Mono Red's going to do its thing. Mono White, of course, is going to do its thing. Esper Control, I'm sure, has a couple new cards. So, but yeah, I hope you guys have a great night and take it easy. Have good luck at your next FNM with War of the Spark. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright. What's up, guys? Gonna open up 2 boosters. Had some epic matches again today. Played Mono White Historic Legends with Traxos. I just want to do a little bit of testing before the new Challenger decks release, and History of Benalia is cheaper, so I just want to see where the deck stands right now. It's it's definitely not like a top tier deck. It's still kind of on the jank tier, but at the same time, I think once I do get a playset of History of Benalia's, that's a saga, so it'll trigger Traxos, and it triggers the Teshar. There's potential there, I think. Obviously not tier 1. It's not gonna be like a Mono White weenie or a Azorius weenie, but I just like playing with Traxos. I think he's awesome. He's a beast. So, and also I was thinking of, because of History of Benalia, now maybe I can make like a Mono White Knights deck, because that was what was holding me back from before. Was if you're gonna play Mono White Knights, or any kind of Knight deck for that matter, you need History of Benalia for that Anthem effect on the 3rd chapter. So, oh, one last thing I want to mention was, so I went 2-1 going into round 4, and I went against the Grixis control deck, and yeah, that one went to game 3, and it was just an epic match. Thief of Sanity, she stole my Quende, and Quende joined the dark side. He joined Nicol Bolas, and he killed me. So, oh man, that was an epic match though. And you could tell it was an epic match just by I just guess you got to be there. But yep. Let's see what we got here. Summer form. Maybe Law Mage's Binding is a good pack one, pick one. Ooh. Oh, Rakdos Firewheeler. I don't know. Clan Guild Mage. Oh, nice. Another Blood Crypt. Cool. So, probably Salon. Oh, nice. I love these zombie tokens. Look. Isn't that such sweet art? I just love that for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, Blood Crypt. So, yeah, pack one, pick one. Probably the Law Mage's Binding. Yeah, Law Mage's Binding. So, alright, cool. Another land. And let's take a look at second kitty pack. So, no promo, just got the 2 packs. Oh, good news though. They announced at the FNM that they were doing, they're now doing standard showdowns on Sunday. So, it's gonna be $5 entry, and top 4 gets the standard showdown packs. And the reason why I haven't been going to standard showdowns lately is because, well, yeah, the game store that I was going to is just, it was like 25-30 minutes with traffic. Well, sometimes even 35 or 40 with traffic, so that's a little bit too far. I only went there twice, and another thing is just I lost my Saturdays. I can't go on Saturday. I have to schedule it, and I think I'd rather schedule for Pauper, because Pauper is, that's my only way of playing in Pauper is in paper at the moment. So yeah, so standard Showdown on Sunday though, that's gonna be sweet, and I think that's in April. So oh man, there's so much good stuff coming on. There's Sphinx of Foresight. It's kind of a miss in terms of value, but I'm surprised this card hasn't shown up more. I think it's kind of good. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with it. It's a 4/4 flyer for 4 mana, and you get this scry built in. Maybe I can build some jank with that, but yeah, it wasn't necessarily a good hit, but you know, maybe there's a blue control deck in the future. Pack 1, pick 1. Maybe Sharkdo Crab, maybe Sphinx of Foresight. There's 2 removal spells, but one's narrow. Scorch Mark is a common, so maybe get more in the pack. Yeah, probably either Sharkdo Crab or Sphinx. I'd probably take the Sphinx though, just because it's a flyer. Even though Sharkdo Crab though, you kind of got to commit to with the counter synergy. So, but he's a beast from what I've seen from YouTube drafts. Seeing a lot of great synergy with Sharkdo Crab. So, all right. So no promo. Only got 2 pity booster packs, consolation packs, but I'm glad the deck actually performed well. I went what 2-1 first round, 2-1 second round, and then lost 1-2 to Mono White Weenie. That kid, Sam, he's in the middle school crew. He plays the Mono White aggro deck. And then the Grixis Control, I went 1-2. So, yeah, the deck didn't go, I mean, it's at least doing a little bit of damage. It's not like complete, you know, 0-2 across the board. So, I'm glad where the deck stands at the moment. So maybe once I get the History of Benalia playset, those will probably drop to like $4 or $5. I think they're already at $5 as a matter of fact. I can get a playset of that, increase the power level of the deck, maybe even go into Mono White Knights. So, yeah, that's it for now. Alright, what's up guys? Got my 4th Light Up the Stage promo, so completed my playset. Gonna start playing some Mono Red Burn. I don't have the Steamkins or the Goblin Chain Whirlers, so I think I'm going to make more of a burn-centric version than the red deck wins. You know, the current one with the Experimental Frenzies, like the 20 creatures, 20 non-spells, and then 20 lands. And for some reason I got 6 booster packs. I don't know, usually I get 4 if I go 3 and 1. So I think maybe he just gave me 2 extra. And yeah, or that, or I guess, because the last round I was going in 3-0, I was on the final table, versus a Bant Vannifar deck, and I lost. That deck is crazy, by the way. It plays 37 creatures, but I don't think he changed you know, when you sign your DCI or whatever, because I remember signing it and I was 0-2 against him, so I think the most likely scenario for me getting 6 packs was the guy at the counter just gave me an extra 2 packs on accident or something, I don't know. But yeah, I didn't really say anything. I kind of just was like, oh, okay, sweet. So, you know, but, you know, I've given him enough money that, you know, 2 extra booster packs is nothing, but I had a good showing, played Mono Black. I'll go over this. Yeah, that Bant Vannifar deck was crazy. I can't wait to go over, because I also got, you know, I looked at his deck and he kind of showed me what, he was playing a lot of 1-ofs in that Bant Vannifar deck, but, you know, it used the Explore package, so I'll go through that. It was a 23 land deck with 37 creatures, and the only non-creature spell was in the sideboard, but anyways, I'm gonna start opening some booster packs, so yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, I was pretty lucky to get 2 extra booster packs out of nowhere. Typically, I think if you go 3 and 1, you're supposed to get 4. Payout's a little bit lower if you win, because if you lose, go 0-4 or 2-2, you still get the 2 booster packs for a $5 entry, so. Oh, and I really needed that new Massacre Girl. That's what I needed, because, oh man, against that deck, it would have been so good. Because it plays like Llanowar Elves and, you know, the Explore package. There's some 2 toughness creatures as well, so. Oh nice, Cindervines, that's a pretty good sideboard card. This was actually played against me, and I was only using one Elders Reborn. I went against the Gruul Warriors in the 3rd round, so yeah, that one was from the sideboard after I think I 2-0'd her. Yeah, I think I 2-0'd her. Yeah, 2-0. Alright. Pack number 2. I still need my 4th Skewer the Critics. Nice, another Zertal. Well, I think, yeah, I already got all the Zertals that I need. Carnival Tyrant. Oh, nice Incubation Druid is a pretty good pickup. Pack number 3. So far, no whiffs on the rares. Pretty good. But yeah, I'm really proud of the mono black control deck. It's always been like a little trusty go-to deck that I can always rely on to get a decent result. So now that I got my 4th light up the stage, though, I think I'm gonna start playing mono red. Throw that into the mix because yeah, I want to get my 4th playset for a full playset. And oh, just my Reveler. Oh well, that was like a meh card. Maybe Rakdos might make a comeback with War of the Spark. You never know. Alrighty. But yeah, so my deck at the moment is, I looked it up on TCG Player, it's about under $25 for a mono black control deck, and you know, it's doing really well. I got rid of the Phyrexian Scriptures just because there's so much enchantment hate nowadays that I'm seeing on my meta. As a matter of fact, the Bant Vannifar deck plays with the Knight of Autumn's Guardian Project. I don't think it's necessarily a commander staple, not as much as Mana Tithe, or what was it? Smothering Tithe. That's what it was. But I need to get the ritual suits. Before the FNM, I bought my Cryo Carnariums and Drill Bits, so I bought a full playset of both. It was like, typically, I think it was $5 and then an extra $2.25 for the singles. So I think the Carnariums were about 40 cents at the game store. Oh, zoom in. Phase. Yeah. Oh, grab the Carnarium. I could use this for, I guess, the cube. Oh, nice. Pestilent Spirit. Yeah, maybe the Rakdos deck might come to fruition. Huh. I don't know. It does have Death Touch and Menace, though, so I wonder if I can make like a Mono Black Burn, throw that into the Mono Black Burn. I have a Mono Black Burn right now, but it needs to Spawn of Mayhems, because once that card was released, I mean, that card is just a beast. So I need to get the playset of Spawn of Mayhem. And let's see, on the 6th pack, Drillbit. Nice, Biogenic Ooze. So this one was a one-of, surprisingly, in the Vannifar deck. He was playing one of this, one of the Tristani Discordant, and then one of Larva Dawnbringer as his 5 drops. And then he plays the 4 Vannifars, the 4 Merfolk Trickster, or Merfolk Branchwalkers, 4 of the Jadelight Rangers, 4 of the Wild Growth Walkers, Llanowar Elves. He also played like the one of the Conclave guy, the 4-mana 4/4 Centaur guy, or that splits into like 2/2s once it dies. So very interesting to see that deck. There's a lot more. I mean, it's only creatures, and it plays like value creatures. So and the Militia Buglers. That was another one. Wow, yeah, Militia Bugler actually hits a lot of things. It hits this. It hits Prime Speaker Vannifar. So yeah, I lost 0-2 against that deck, but against all the other decks I had a pretty good, easy time with. Win against Mono White round 2, Gruul Warriors round 3, and my round 1 wasn't really a real matchup. It was more of I mean, the guy, he's, you know, I played against him in Magic League, but he's not like a serious player. He actually invited me to play. I think he's more of like a 40k Warhammer guy, because he invited me to play Necromunda, which unfortunately I think I'm gonna have to pass on because Magic is already an expensive hobby. So I don't know if I want to drop more money into another hobby, but yeah. So got these 2 bonus packs. Hit 1 Mythic, which is a pretty decent Mythic. But yeah, Mono Black has been a trusty deck for me. So, didn't get the promo today. Only got 2 boosters as the consolation. I went 1 and 3 with Mono Red Burn. Try to go with more of a burn strategy with electrostatic fields, but what ended up being my demise was Knight of Autumns today. So I faced Naya Midrange and a Bant Vannifar deck that were both utilizing Knight of Autumn, and the Bant Vannifar deck was also using the Wild Growth Walkers, so I had to, kill the Wild Growth Walkers, so less burn, but that's not to say that, oh, and also, I was also only playing 16 lands in my burn deck, which, to be honest, I think 18 is probably the lowest you should go, because you want to have at least your second land so you can fling out 2 spells at once. But yeah, I need to do some adjustments to that. I didn't have my 4th Skewer the Critics or 3 Wizard's Lightning. I only have the 1 Wizard's Lightning that I got from the Deck Builder's Toolkit from way back. So I need to... Yeah, I'm gonna wait until the price goes down on Wizard's Lightning because they're in the Challenger decks now, so... yeah, and I'm, Skewer the Critics, I should open my 4th one naturally, but... Yeah, let's take a look at these constellation packs. So yeah, 1 and 3. My only win was against Rakdos Control, and I lost in the 4th round to Gruul Midrange, or maybe it was Gruul Aggro. I don't know. It was playing Rekindling Phoenix. So, all right. So let's see what we got here. Boom, boom. So yeah, War of the Spark is coming up. Spoiler season's been pretty awesome. Gatebreaker Ramp, cool. Oh, nice, Bedevil. So this one should go up with the next meta, I think. Oh, whoa, look at that. There's the Watchdog. Glowy eyes. It's pretty cool. And, Teferi Album. Yeah, I don't know how good that one is. Alright, so Bedevil's not that bad of a hit, I think. Maybe Grixis Control might be a thing next meta. I mean, destroy target creature or planeswalker is pretty good flexibility, especially with War of the Spark. So let's see here. Boom, Shimmer. Oh, that reminds me. I was sitting next to, I think his name is Alex. He was playing the Budget Gates deck, and he was right next to me, and he actually ended up going against the Naya Midrange deck that I faced in round 1. They were both 2-1 going into round 4, and I saw the last game, and the Budget Gates deck won, so he went 3-1, the Naya Midrange deck went 2-2. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Daggercaster. Oh, nice. Carnival Carnage. That's kind of, yeah. Oh, nice. It's a Tithe Taker. So, might jam him in maybe maybe I make a mono white. I don't know. I mean, this is definitely good in the mono white Challenger deck, the United Assault. But yeah. Oh, and that was another thing today. We had like a ton of people. We had like 15, 16 people sign up for FNM. I think it was because of the Challenger decks. And I actually saw someone open up the United Assault deck, and he already had the 2 extra copies of History of Benalia, and the Venerated Loxodons, and the Snub Horde Sentries that he jammed in. So, and he went 4-0. So, that's actually pretty awesome from a Challenger deck. But he already had the upgrades set aside, so that's pretty cool. This right here, I might have this for sideboard tech in my mono red burn deck. I gotta do some adjustments though. I gotta switch it up from 16 lands, go back up to 18. And I might actually shy away from the electrostatic fields. Because my electrostatic fields, they always got removed with like lava coils, for instance. That was really common. And also, like this Bant Vannifar, he got me with the Deputy of Detention. He got 2 of my electrostatic fields with Deputy of Detention. But yeah, I'll go over that later. But yeah, healing is the bane of all burn decks, so it's actually kind of not really a good meta call right now because there is so much sideboard hate against burn, but I still want to try and make it work. Plus, this is my 3rd week playing a different monocolored deck. Maybe next week I play mono green or mono blue mill. But yeah, that's oh, another thing is tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but on Sunday at 2 o'clock, my game store, my main local game store, they're having their first standard showdown, so I'm definitely gonna show up for that. And I can actually make it on Sundays, so you know, at 2 p.m. I'm definitely gonna try and make every Sunday. So stay tuned for that. Actually, I have 2 standard showdown videos, but they're kind of like in limbo, and they were from the last meta, so I don't know if I'll include that. And plus, it was at a different game store, so I don't know if I'll include that in like maybe like a standard showdown monthly, where I compile like 4 weeks of standard showdown. But yeah, that's all for now.